Hey guys, welcome back. We'll continue building out our Django application, and in this final part we are going to learn how to style the admin section. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, you can find them linked up here. So far we have used a fairly simple admin interface to create the different questions for our polls apps and also the different answers. But we can customize this more to make it a lot easier to provide the correct questions and answers. This is what we are going to cover today, so let's get right into it. In the previous videos, we already worked with the administration we signed in, and we enabled, for example, our questions to be displayed in the administration. But at the moment, the admin page here is still pretty standard, and it's not really optimal. And we're going to learn how we can actually adjust this admin site to actually change it and not have it look like a standard Django admin site, but actually turn it into a proper admin site for our application. And we're going to start out by taking a look at our questions. Now we already registered our question model to be displayed here in the administration. And if we select a question, we can see the question text and also the date published. This is a default view which simply displays the different attributes of our class, which of course is the question text and the publication date, but we can customize that and adjust it. And to do that, we can head over to our code editor, and inside of our app, we can take a look at our admin module. Here we already registered the question class, which is why we could see it in the administration. But if we want to customize the way the question data is displayed, we have to make some changes. First of all, we're going to add a new model admin subclass, which we are going to call question admin. And in here we specify the fields that should be displayed. So here we have our publication date and our question text. And note that in this case, we put the publication date first. After that, we need to add our model admin class, here question admin, as a second argument to our site registration. So let's save that and let's head back to our application. Now we can see currently, before we reload the page, the question text is still displayed on top and the date published at the bottom. But since we just switched them around, as soon as we reload the page, we can see they are swapped as well. So the order in which we add the attributes in here also impacts the order in which they will be displayed in the administration. That's not very impressive with just two fields, but if we had a long list of attributes, it can be really helpful to be able to sort them in the proper way. We can also go ahead and split up our attributes into different field sets. For that, we can head back into our admin module, and rather than specifying fields, we are going to specify the field set, which is a list of tuples. So first we have a tuple here that has a value of none. And then we have the question text here. And after that, we have a second tuple with date information and then with the publication date. And the first entry in our tuple basically defines the different fields we are displaying. So if we switch back to our admin page here and reload the page, we can see that the date information now is displayed as its own group. And under that, we have the publication date information. So that can be really useful, especially if we have a lot of attributes and we want to group them properly. Alright, so we have our question here, but our question of course has multiple choices and they're not displayed here yet. But of course we can adjust this and display the choices right along with our questions. Now the easiest way to display choices in the administration would be to just register them, just the same as we did with our question before. So for that, we just need to make sure that we import choice from our models module, and then we can go ahead and we can register our choice class. With that in place, we can head back, and if we now take a look at our administration, we can see we have a second entry here, choices, and we could specify those choices. If we decide to add a new choice, we can see that we can select the question for which we want to add a choice, we can provide the choice text and also the votes associated with it. And those attributes here are displayed because of how we set up the model. Because we specified a foreign key, Django automatically displays that as a select box, and we can then select the question associated with that choice. Now that's one way to handle this, but of course that's still a lot of clicks, and for each choice we would have to repeat those steps and, for instance, always select the same question to add multiple choices to a single question. So rather than doing that, let's take a different approach. We're going to remove the site registration for our choice, and instead we are going to add a new class, choice inline, which is a stacked inline subclass. Here we specify the associated model, so in our case the choice class, and then we specify extra 3 so that tells Django that we want to display 3 entries for our choices. And of course we still want to associate those choices with our question class, and therefore we are adding this to our question admin class, which is the subclass of the model admin class. So here we add inlines and we set that equal to choice inline. And we also made a small modification here to our field set. So here we added an additional class and set this to collapse just to save a little bit of space. So with those changes in place, let's save this and let's head back and let's have a look at a question. So now as we take a look at the question here, we can now see that due to adding this class collapse, by default the date information here is hidden. We can show it if you'd like, but the important change here is that we now have choices which are added, and we can see we have 3 choices. The number has been defined by setting the variable extra to a value of 3, and then we can immediately enter 3 choices here, can specify the number of votes. If we'd like, we can still add another vote here. And then of course, finally, we can save this all at once, so we are able to modify or create a new question and immediately add all the choices in one step. Now that's already a huge improvement to how it worked before, because we can enter all the information in a single view along with the question, but we're still using up a lot of space. And it's quite easy to make this a little bit more compact. All we need to do is to adjust the class from which we are inheriting our choice inline class. So rather than using a stacked inline class, we can change this to tabular inline. And once we switch back and reload the page, we can see we have a much more compact view. Here we can see the choice text, the number of votes, and also the option to delete a choice in a tabular form. So we save a lot of space. We can still add additional choices if we'd like. And so it's very easy and straightforward to add choices in here. So now the question admin page is looking good, so we can have a look at the next view. And let's have a look at the page here that displays all the different questions that we have added. So by default, Django uses a string method for each object and therefore displays the name of the question in this case. But we may want to adjust that and, for instance, add some additional columns in here to display more data right on the question overview page. And of course we can customize that. Again, we would switch over to our admin.py file. And in here, as part of our question admin class, we're going to add the list display admin option. And this is a tuple that contains the different values that should be displayed. So here we have the question text that we just saw before, but we are also adding the publication date and also the was published recently method that we added before. And just as a reminder, if we head over to our models module, we can have a look at our question class. And here we can see the question text, the publication date, and also the method was published recently, which basically returns if a question has been added within the last day, and it either returns true or false. So with that option added, let's head back to our administration, and we can now reload the page. And remember, we added 2 additional attributes in here. So now we can see the question text is still displayed, but now we have the publication date and also the value if it was published recently. We can also automatically sort by those columns. So if we click on question text, for instance, we can sort alphabetically in ascending or descending order, and we can also sort based on our publication date. We cannot sort based on the 3rd column here, was published recently, and Django by default only supports sorting based on the attributes, not based on methods. But of course we can adjust that manually. So if we want to sort based on that 3rd column here, and maybe you also want to adjust the text, we can do that. For that, we head back to our models.py file, and just above our method, here we are adding the display decorator, and we specify that we are ordering based on the publication date, and also we adjust the description to published recently. And in order to use that decorator and reference our admin module, we also need to ensure that we import that module. So here we are adding that we are importing admin from Django contrib. Once we've done that, we can reload our page, and now we can see that we have a more descriptive text here. We are able to sort, and we can also see that rather than displaying a string, true or false, we can now either see this X icon here or a check mark if the question was published recently. Now, if we have a lot of questions here, we may want to be able to filter based on them. And to do that, just need to make a small adjustment. So we're going to add list_filter, and we're going to set that to publication date. So with that saved, we can reload the page, and now we can see some quick filter option here. So we can filter by today's questions, for instance, the ones that have been created this month, for instance, or this year. And that's just a quick way to have a look at the relevant questions. Now let's also add some search capability. Similar to the filter option, we have an attribute for that. So here we are using search_fields, and we're going to set that to question text because we want to be able to search based on the question text. So with that, let's reload the page. And now we can see we have a search bar here on top. So let's say we want to search for programming language. And here we can see we have one question that matches that result. So we can very easily find the relevant questions. So as we can see, we have a lot of options here to very easily adjust what kind of options we have available. For the admin page, we can add filter option, we can add search options, and we can even customize the different fields that are displayed here and whether or not we can sort based on them. But our administration still looks very standard. So we can see, for instance, Django administration displayed on the top left side. And of course, typically we want to adjust that and have some more suitable text displayed there. And to customize what our administration actually looks like, we can work with project templates. So we already saw templates before inside of our app. So inside of our polls app, we worked with templates for different pages. We can basically do the same on the project level, and we are going to use project templates to customize our administration. So for that, we are heading over to our project here. So outside of polls, we called it My Site before. We're going to right click and we're going to create a new folder, which we call templates. Now, technically those templates could be anywhere inside of our application, but it's just good practice to include project templates right inside the folder inside of our project. Now, in order to actually use our template, we need to head over to our settings.py file. And here, if we scroll down, we can find the templates list. And here we need to adjust the directory option. So here we're telling Django that we want to have a look at the base directory and then at the templates folder, which we just created. Now next, inside of our templates directory, we are going to create an additional folder, which we call admin. We can then move our templates admin directory outside of My Site. So it's basically in parallel to My Site and the polls app. Now next we need to copy the base site HTML template from the default Django admin template directory into the directory that we just created. And to figure out where we can find our Django source files, we can open the terminal and then we can enter this command. So python-c and then in quotation marks import Django, print Django.__path__. And this is going to print out where our Django source files are located. So I just opened that Django folder. And then we can head over to contrib, admin, templates. And here we can find an admin directory. And inside of that, we can see a number of default templates. We are interested in the base site HTML template. So we can take that, we can copy that, and then we can go ahead and paste that inside of our templates directory. Now inside of that template, we can go ahead, and if we take a look inside of this branding block, we can have a look at this section here, and here we see this site header default Django administration, which is exactly this heading here. So we can go ahead and we can remove the section here with the two curly braces, and instead we can enter our own application name. So for example, polls administration. So with those changes in place, we can reload our page, and now we can see it says polls administration, so the text we provided. And we could override any of Django's default admin templates. So if we look here, we have, for example, templates for error messages or for the app list. All of them could be adjusted. So in this video, we covered how we can customize the administration in Django, how we can very easily add filter options, for instance, view additional attributes or search for certain objects, for example, for questions. And we also covered how we can work with project templates and also adjust the default Django templates and, for example, provide our own text. In the next video, we're going to cover how we can write reusable apps. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date about new videos, and see you guys in the next video.